Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hello there. Sorry, breaking news. Some of you already know this. I love this. A chicken and her egg were rescued Tuesday morning by the McKeesport police. I love it. McKeesport police directed traffic at the McKeesport-Duquesne Bridge to ensure the safety of the chicken and her egg until they were safely gotten to a kennel. A kennel. Animal control officers got a call saying there's a chicken crossing the road. You know what? If you had to if you were the reporter to write this story, it would be so hard not to just pun your way through the entire thing. A McKeesport police officer stopped and stayed with both the chicken and the egg. The officer protected the two. I love it. The officer said, she'd laid an egg right on the bridge. And sure enough, she was sitting. It was just sitting right there. Anyway, they're trying to find the owner of the chicken. If they don't, they've received calls from a lot of people who are willing to take her and have her for dinner. There you go. Hi. Welcome to the show. We'll be here for about an hour. Talking about things in the news, or not. So let's just all get a grip on what's happening in Congress today. It appears now that the Republicans, who are all about show and not about substance, are, I guess, going to pass something that essentially, yes, is their repeal and replace of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. They are doing this even though there cannot be more than 2 or 3 members of that House who've even seen the bill at this point. The bill has not been through the normal process of going through committee, having hearings. This is a bill of huge import, obviously. It is being literally cobbled together so that votes can be gotten. God knows what kind of despicable trade-offs are going on to get the votes. And they're going to declare a victory. And the Congressional Budget Office hasn't looked at it, hasn't vetted it. The few people who are greatly interested, and entities greatly interested in this, that have apparently been able to see some of what's in it, have said, you got to be kidding me. And they include the American Medical Association, the AMA, and the AARP. Obviously, if they pass this thing today, Obamacare is still there. Because the way it works, remember the song, how a bill, I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill, right? It has to go to the Senate. The Senate is a more moderate, in some respects, institution. At least it used to be. And they ain't going to accept the exact bill, so they'll create another bill. Then it has to go back to the House, and they have to wrangle over whether they can agree. They're never going to agree. That's my take, okay? So, but they're just shamelessly misrepresenting it, I'm willing to bet. And just doing this for the optics, so the Donald can preen a little bit and puff his chest out a little bit more. So I ain't discussing that one because I don't know what I'm discussing. I haven't seen the thing. Have you? No, of course you haven't. And the odds are your congressperson who's about to vote on it hasn't seen it either. So there was this. I've been dying to talk about it. I don't think I ever did bring it up on the air, did I? And then finally, I saw it in a headline in the Washington Post, and I thought, well, dang it. I was going to talk about this a month ago, maybe weeks. Did I mention that Macron, the guy who's running against Le Pen in the French presidential thing, is married to a woman who is 24 years older than he? I mean, I just think it is mind-blowing, because in our culture, that is almost unheard of. Any of you know any couple with that kind of a... I mean, yes, we all know couples, but it's the man who's the old one and the woman who's the young one. So does anyone know of a couple where a handsome, going places young guy has married a woman 24 years his senior? Me either. And, only in France. That would be a disqualifier here. This guy wouldn't have gotten out of he would have been considered really weird. Really weird. Really weird. What you doing with the old lady? He would have been made fun of. There's a little bit of that going on in France. Whispers that he's gay. So he's 39, and his wife just turned 64. He met her when he was 15. See, in this country, this would be considered like child abuse or something. She was a teacher at the high school he attended in northern France, and she ran the drama club, and she was married and had 3 children. So, married teacher, 3 kids, and they fell in love somehow. Yeah, see, now Celine is getting creeped out over there. His parents freaked out and sent him away. Sent him off to Paris to cool down and to put distance between him. But she retained her job and went about her business and blah, 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 blah. But they, I guess, must have kept in touch. And it took a while. She ended up divorcing eventually, and 10 years ago, they were married. So he's sent away at 15. He then marries her at 29. Are you less creeped out now, Celine? Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. But the 15 thing, that's creepy. So, there you have it. 64. Wow. And, I mean, she's very well preserved for, she's not a 64 like a lot of women are a 64. But they say that women in France love it. They just love it, obviously. So he's going to get a lot of women's votes just because he loves an old woman. And he could have any babe he wants. So that does endear him to women. I hope that's enough to keep the woman from winning the presidency there. Because she's a Nazi. Oh, what else? What a hockey game last night, huh? Were you watching? I know some of you don't give a damn. But those of you who do, it was a hell of a game. And it occurred to me as I was just, there's like 3 minutes left in the game. And unlike basketball and football, when there's 3 minutes left in a hockey game, there aren't timeouts called and all kinds of things happening that make that 3 minutes into 20. And it is so unbearable how long 3 minutes can be. I mean, the excruciating slowness of those seconds ticking down when you just want something to end. And it got me to thinking about time and about our perception of time and about how 3 minutes can be truly an eternity, or it can be a blink of an eye, right? Depending. So our perception of time is fascinating, and I don't have the brain power to understand when scientists start talking about time and you get into relativity and all that. My head turns off. It starts spinning around. But I on television as a reporter, by the time I left TV news, it was generally considered a lot of time to be given 90 seconds to do your story. A minute and a half. That was a huge thing. Now, imagine cramming. I mean, that works for some stories. You can do it. But 90 seconds for, let's say, covering what the Republicans are up to in D.C. today, how are you going to do that without having to throw out a million things that nuance and context and all kinds of things that would in fact allow the viewer to understand a little bit better. So 90 seconds can be poof. And then if you don't have anything to say, I once covered a PUC hearing, Public Utility Commission, when I was very in my beginnings as a reporter. As a matter of fact, it wasn't here. It was in the state of Wisconsin. And they sent me to this thing, and I sat there, and I did not understand anything that was going on. I didn't understand. They were talking in lingo and language that was absolutely, they might as well have been talking Swahili. And when I came back to the station, they said, you got a minute and a half. I thought, Jesus Christ, how am I supposed? That's like it's like fill the Grand Canyon. I don't know what the hell. I can't even remember it must have been the most extraordinary bunch of word salad that I ever concocted, because I didn't understand. I was one hell of a lousy reporter that day, I'll tell you. I think that's when they started to say, maybe we should move Lynn into features. I don't know that Lynn is really good at, public utility hearings. And I had a trainer who said, you can do anything for 1 minute. That's not true. When a trainer tells you that, a minute again, it looks like 5 hours. And then I remember once, and I hate to revisit this, but it just occurred to me, it popped into my head. I remember when there was a plane crash. Total loss of life. And the plane was flying low, so the plunge down was not that long, they said. Not that long. It was something like 30 seconds. And people were saying, thank God they didn't have to suffer long. Are you kidding me? And what I did, I'll do it again. I shut up for 30 seconds. And imagine you're on a plunging plane. There. Or thereabouts. Wow. So, time. All that because the hockey game it couldn't end fast enough for me. I mean, in the way it did. Okay. So, you wonder what I'm drinking today? So, before the hockey game, I was out to dinner, and with a friend of mine, female, and we ended up talking about a lot of stuff, about men and women, and we got into political correctness a little bit and other stuff, and she's more liberal than I in this regard, and I think it's just by virtue of the fact that I'm 10 years older, and I think everybody's a little too, like what we were talking about yesterday. If a guy says to me, hey, Lynn, I love that blouse, I say thank you. A lot of younger women feel like, fuck you, I guess. So we were talking about that and other stuff, and I'd say about, I don't know how long, but some young man was seated. He was seated right next to us, and relatively close. So there's no way, and he was eating alone, and there was no way he was not hearing every word we were saying. And it occurred to me, because we were talking about men and this and that he might have found this particularly interesting. And sure enough, as we were winding up, we'd paid our bill, and I can't remember exactly how he inserted himself, but one of us posed a question like, well, how is a guy supposed to blah, blah, blah? And all of a sudden, this guy who'd been very circumspect said, that's something I'd like to know too. So, I mean, it was funny. It was so funny. So the three of us talked for a little while. He was a very handsome man. And I said, how old are you? Trying to get a fix on where he fit. Like Celine was saying the other day, I hope you don't mind, that a younger man saying, I like your blouse, you might not think he was, I like your shirt, you might not think he was up to anything, but the minute an old guy says it to her, she's assuming, fuck you, right?
And this is played out.
Yeah, and she says anecdotally in her life that works. So I said, so how old are you? And he said, guess. And I said, not me. I can't guess anyone's age anymore. I cannot. But I was thinking in my head, 30? And my friend looks at him, and she says, 31. And I said, I bet you nailed it, right? He was 46. Jeez. Wow. So we went nuts for a while about him being 46. And I said, you ever been married? He said, no. He said, maybe that's why I look so young. I said, there might be. He said, well, I eat alone a lot. He said, and invariably I hear a lot. I can't help but be listening in on the conversations of people seated near me. He said, and I want to thank you both for the most enjoyable conversation that I have overheard. He said it was really fun. I felt so proud. I said, well, thank you very much. And you're more than welcome to listen in any time you want. So, I vaguely... Hang on. Henry has written. Lynn, I was reading a list of conditions that would be considered pre-existing under Trump care. And they include high blood pressure and high cholesterol. I'm pretty sure Trump himself has these conditions, and so does half the country. Over a certain age, absolutely. We're getting screwed from both sides. You have the House crafting a health care bill with no input from the medical community, nor the Congressional Budget Office. And you have the insurance companies slashing coverage, such as Highmark no longer covering MedExpress, which is outrageous. We must as well not have any health care, because in the end, what are we paying for? Well, you know, it's weird, Henry. I mean, don't even get me started on it. I mean, you know how I feel. I used to be, like most people, the doctor. Once you're in the hands of the medical people, you feel safe. And I have done a total 180. The minute I'm in the care of the medical people, I feel vulnerable. I get scared. Now, mostly that has to do with they almost killed me 2 years ago. And they acknowledged it. They almost killed me. So I don't... And then we know that the system is busted. It's I think, irrevocably busted. And it needs to be blown up and start over. Why can't I find this thing? All right, never mind. There is a new book out called An American Sickness, since Henry's brought this up. And it's written by a woman who was a doctor and then became a journalist. Her name is Ellen Rosenthal. And man, this is a woman after my own heart. She does not find much in our current healthcare system to be proud of. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure she finds anything. Every sector, she says, now puts financial gain over patient needs. From the pharmaceutical companies, as we know, to nonprofit hospitals like UPMC that skimp on their charity care, which they have so they're tax exempt. Jesus Christ. But their CEOs and God knows how many people in the upper echelons make millions and millions of dollars with all the perks of a CEO in the private, regular corporate sector. Insurance companies, she says, push prices higher rather than contain them. Device makers, lab companies, specialists all pile on more charges and unnecessary procedures until the system is simply staggering. Staggering under the weight of the inefficiency that the system has institutionalized. I don't know. She believes it's really been just in the last quarter century that things have completely gone kaplooey, where you've got a completely dysfunctional system that is totally untethered from anything having to do with the patient and care. Think of that word, care. And then think of how you're treated. A professor of health law that she quotes says that people had a lot of faith in the American medical profession, that they would act differently than other businesses. They were wrong. Okay. Do you remember maybe about a month or so ago? Did I tell you I ended up talking to Tim Stevens, the former head of the NAACP here, the political activist, the head of Black Empowerment Project. And he was just going a mile a minute with his theory. And he said, Lynn, for God's sakes, think of this. I think I shared it with you. He said, do you know what cost Hillary the election? Bill Clinton. Her damn husband. That was the event. And I had never thought of it. And he made a really compelling case that it was Bill. Stupidly. Bill, the genius, the Rhodes Scholar, the great politician. It was Bill Clinton who, while his wife, running for president, is under investigation by the FBI, which is under the Justice Department, sees that another plane is on the tarmac, and in it is the Attorney General of the United States, who heads the Justice Department. And he says, why, I think I'll go over and say hi. And over he went and up the steps, and he was in there for an hour. And then he and she later said, yeah, we just chatted about, our kids and this and that and blah, blah, blah. That's not the way the world saw it. Here was the husband of a target of an investigation talking to the woman who is at the head. And Tim Stevens was absolutely sure that's it. That is what then precipitated the series of events that took her down. And you know what? He's right. So stop screaming at her, stop screaming at everybody else, and scream at that fuck Bill Clinton. And we now know it. Because Comey's testimony yesterday, that was, in fact, just what Tim Stevens said, that was the precipitating event that made him first publicly come out against the usual circumventing the Attorney General because he felt she'd been tainted. He didn't want the investigation tainted, so he felt he had to come out. And recall, he came out and said there's no reason for any criminal charges to be filed here. It wasn't like he came out and indicted her. He came out and said, we can't find anything criminal here. But he did then say, but she was reckless, right? And it is that public statement made in July? Right after Bill went up to see Loretta. It was that public statement that he said he felt compelled him then to let Congress know that he had in fact reopened the investigation just weeks before the election. Now, you can argue that that is bullshit, that he had to. But this is his story, and it does have, from his point of view, it makes some sense. Dana Milbank in the Washington Post did a piece on it today, and the lead sentence is, so now it can be told. Bill Clinton cost his wife the presidency. There's your culprit. If Clinton had not boarded the plane in June, Comey would not have spoken out in July, which then means he wouldn't have felt compelled to speak up again a few weeks before the election, which means Hillary Clinton, in all likelihood, would have won. None of that, of course, can be proved, but there is a very, very realistic timeline that can be drawn. And in fact, it's the story Comey himself tells. And it's a story Tim Stevens figured out long ago. Thanks, Bill. You're a real help. Think of all the impediments he's put in that woman's way. Think of what he's put her through. And she kept on a-coming. She kept rising above it, intrepid as she is. And she still loves the SOB. I used to. I don't anymore. I've had it. Joe, are you there? Hello, Joe? Hi.
Yes.
Hi.
There's a little bit of a delay there. That's why
Yeah, I understand.
saying hello.
Yeah.
Okay. But you were talking about health care. You could tell that none of them are serious about anything with health care, and you could tell the Congress is bought and paid for, both sides, for the simple reason they never question the cost of what a hospital charges on operations, pregnant when a woman has a baby. If you would take the figures now and the figures way back 40 years, let's go 40 years, way before when there was like private, it was non-profit hospitals. The difference is so unbelievable, but nobody questions that. Mm-hmm. That's okay, it's free enterprise and they're making money. I mean, it's like, geez, I don't know what the numbers are, but it's unreal. They've been proven this many times. So everybody says they want single payer. But I always say, yeah, that sounds nice, but you'll still be involved with the insurance companies. And those are the rotten bastards that are, plus the hospitals.
No, I don't think you... Single payer, I don't think you're involved with the insurance companies.
No?
No.
What do you have in Medicare?
Well, I think those single payer...
Isn't it run...
It's like, it's sort of like, but no, it because it exists within our crazy system. I'm not, Joe, if anybody live in ever in a civilized country and can tell us, I don't think you don't jump through the hoops of the insurers. I don't believe you do. I mean, my only experience, and I've told the story. I was in England in 1992 with my 8-month-old son, and he got sick, and I went to a little village hospital, and they did all the thing, took us right in, saw a doctor, blah, 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 and I'm walking out with the medicine, with a prescription and all this stuff, and I said to the woman on the way out, so do I pay you? And she looked at me and said, pay? She said, no. You're fine. Go ahead. There was no payment to be made at all. And then I went over to the chemist, which is the drugstore, and stood in line with a few people, got up to the druggist, gave the prescription. He filled it. I said, he said, here. And I said, well, thank you. But what is the charge? He says, there is no charge. That was my experience. And I said, but I'm an American. I'm not, he says, you're our guest, you are covered. That's what he said. I turned around with the other people that were in the store. I said, I want to thank you so much. This is just mind-blowing to me. And I assure you, if you come to my country, we will not return the favor. Do you believe that, Joe?
So
That was what, I don't know, but as a guest, as somebody who wasn't even taxed by them, they didn't charge me.
no, that's like that. I didn't know that.
Well, I don't know. They didn't charge me. I don't know. Now, I'm sure the druggist, the chemist, gets reimbursed. It's not like he's giving stuff out for free. He must have something that he gets money then from the government for what he is. I don't know. Not one shilling came out of my pocket.
Well, Medicare, when they were going to put everybody on Medicare, at least 50 and older, is that the same thing?
No, it can't be, because I'm on Medicare,
Right,
and
right.
it's bullshit. It's not. If this is, it's not single payer.
That's the way it is.
I think with Medicare, what they're saying is the minute you turn 65, you can be on it. You know, it's everybody. They don't keep you out for this or that or whatever. I don't know, Joe, but our system is so insane, is so complicated, and is so about making everything more expensive. And in the middle of it, the people, the patient, the people who need care get lost. I'm not saying there aren't wonderful outcomes here. There are wonderful doctors, nurses, specialists, all that. And they save people's lives. But that's almost in spite of the system they work in.
Right.
Hey, thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye. So from Joe, we go to Josie. Josie, hi.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
Regarding health care, last year I had an endoscopy at UPMC, and I got the statement, and it was $35,000. I probably
What?
was in the hospital. Yes, I was probably in the hospital for a total of 2.5, 3 hours, and it was $35,000.
No.
Also last year, yes.
I mean, you see, I get an endoscopy, Josie. I have to get an endoscopy, lucky me, every year. Can you? I guess I've never seen
That's yeah.
I've never
asked
seen that.
for an itemized bill,
Oh,
and that's not what I paid, but that's what they charged the insurance company, and of course the insurance company
didn't pay.
has
Yeah.
deals with a UPMC, and of course they pay
Yeah.
hardly anything, but of that amount. Also, last year I had to have an MRI of my brain and my entire spinal cord, and it was also way up there. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, close to about $40,000. Anyway, I was diagnosed with a very rare type of MS, which they are, and I was looking at different procedures that's now in the news that they are conducting clinical trials for it here in the United States because they are not funded. It's for a stem cell transplant, which is done in the United States all the time for leukemia patients, but they are just now conducting clinical trials for people with MS. And they are charging, because it's not funded by pharmaceutical companies, they are charging $120,000 to have this partially out of hospital procedure. I researched this procedure for 2 years, and I elected to go to Russia for this procedure. I took a loan off my mortgage. I took a second and I got the money, and it was $50,000. It was a lot of money. But I was there for a whole month in a private hospital room that was 2 rooms plus a bathroom, large. They conducted. I had so many tests I can't tell you. They told me things about my body that I have never even known before, and showed me the results of these tests. I had a complete MRI, just like I had done at UPMC. I had blood tests. I had CAT scans of all my internal organs. They did a Doppler of the veins in my legs, urine tests, urinalysis, lung function tests, eye tests. I can't tell you. I was checked out from top to bottom before they would allow me to undergo this procedure. For all that, I was charged $1,500, which I had to pay up front. And after that, once they accepted me, then I paid the $48,500. I was there for an entire month. They did my laundry. They fed me. I have never in my entire life received the level of care that I had in Moscow. Never. I can't tell. Every day I woke up amazed, the level of care. If I rang that little button that something was wrong, I had a nurse in there within 15 seconds, 20 seconds. I ended up having a reaction to the chemo. They did all this extra stuff for me. They were afraid I may have had a heart attack. I got tested for that. No extra charge. Something is wrong. I can't imagine the bill I would have had if that had occurred here.
Wait a minute, Josie. Did you have you had the stem cell thing done there?
Yes, I did.
And did it work? Did it work?
The purpose of it is to stop the progression. The type I have is something akin to ALS, where it progresses.
Okay.
And I still have the symptoms from the damage that has been done, but he gave me an 80% chance of stopping the progression. And this is a hematologist. He has degrees. He's written papers on it. He's well known throughout the world. I see you talking, but I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me now?
Oh, now I can.
Okay. I am blown away by your story, as I am sure anybody listening is. Wow. Thank you for that story. And thanks for your courage, actually, in doing what you did. That takes a lot of courage and actually desperation, does it not? Created by our stupid, ineffective system. You go to a poor country like Russia and get that level of care. Unbelievable.
It was amazing. And this procedure is not only done in Russia, it's done all over the world.
Yeah.
Canada just completed a 15-year clinical trial and found that it works. But MS drugs, I don't know if you're aware, the type I have is not, which is one of the reasons I chose to go there. The type I have, there are no MS drugs FDA approved for it until just recently, last 2 weeks ago. But this procedure is done all over the world, and I was speaking with the doctor about it, who was amazing. I have never felt so well cared for in my whole life. But I spoke to him about it, and he said, I don't understand why the United States doesn't do this. We performed clinical trials for 7 years, and we found that it worked, and we're doing it, and we're seeing results. He's been doing it for 15 years, I think, and he has written medical papers with his results. And here in the United States, and I really think it's because of MS drugs are incredibly expensive. They wanted me to take one, which was over $12,000 a month, and they said that they didn't even have results for it even affecting my type of MS. So I said, why should I be taking this drug at $12,000 a month with all its side effects? and they were trying to push it on me.
Jesus.
And this is at UPMC. And I thought, this is ridiculous. And this is what we're living with here. And the
words.
I can't even wrap my
Words fail you. It's obscene. It is a totally broken, cynical system that is simply about making money, and screw people like you, the patients. Good for you. I wish you all the best, Josie.
And
thank you so much.
Dying.
Huh? Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Jeez, what courage to go halfway around the world like that. My God. Wow. Yeah. This is the great USB. Getting back to some other emails. Roger says, I agree completely with you about the perception of time. The last few minutes of last night's game were excruciating. When I'm experiencing stress, time goes really slow, sure. These first 100 days have dragged on horribly. I'm 55 now, but I might be 95 by the time Trump's 4 years is over. Yeah. I'm with you totally, completely. I gotcha. Brooke writes, I watched most of the Comey hearing yesterday instead of listening to your show. Sorry, I figured that. I could tell you you guys were watching, and I would have done the same. I'm just not buying Comey's claim that he only had two options, speak or conceal. I think he had plenty of other options. And Comey admitted he knew that his letter would be leaked by Congress, so if you knew that would happen, why not sit on the damn thing for another 8 days until the election's over? I completely agree with you. I think Comey doth protest too much, and I've lost my respect I had for him. He said if he concealed the Wiener laptop, it would be the death of the FBI. Sorry, the FBI has been through worse than this and survived. He did damage. He was worried about the integrity of the FBI. It was his actions that did the damage. There's a good piece by, I rarely quote him. No, that's not the piece. It was going to be George Will, but no, it's the Dana Milbank piece about it. Yeah. He said, Milbank said the same thing. He said he had only two options, to speak out or to conceal that there'd been other. And Milbank says there's an obvious third option. And that was to, once you had the Wiener laptop show up, to let his agents have at that laptop to find out if there was anything worthwhile in the new batch of emails before throwing the election. And as we all sadly know, there was not a thing on that computer for which he gave Donald Trump the election. Beyond maddening. Phil writes, presenting Mika and Joe, move over, Mary and James, Maria and Arnold, Eleanor and Franklin. What? Oh, odd political couples. I can't stand the two of them, so I don't listen. I don't watch. I used to years ago when they first started. I watched. And then little by little, they started to really wear on me. And it was a bad way for me to start my day, listening to those guys. So I ceased and desisted myself. The George Will piece that I just referenced, I believe, showed up. I saw it in the Washington Post, but I think it is in today's Post-Gazette, if you get that. And he's flat. He's scared. You can tell he's scared. He thinks we have an idiot in a position where he could destroy us all. Can you imagine thinking such a thing? He thinks that Trump is, to say that he's disabled is to speak the obvious truth, observable by anybody with 2 or 3 brain cells still active. And Will, in his inimitable style, says this: it's not merely the result of intellectual sloth. He's talking about Trump's behavior, but of his untrained mind, bereft of information and married to stratospheric self-confidence. See, yeah, this marriage of ignorance and arrogance is potentially, life-threatening. Not for him, for us. And he points out that when Trump made this absurd, again, his total, Jackson was upset, was very angry about the Civil War, which of course happened 16 years after he'd been dead and gone. But then he goes back to this quote where Trump says, people don't ask that question. Why? Why was there a civil war? The president actually said that. People don't ask that question. And Will says, there are library shelves groaning under the weight of huge books that ask that question. There's millions of books. So Trump says, you always wonder, he's always saying things like people. People don't ask the question. People say, someone told me, blah, blah, blah. And Will says, who, one wonders, are these people? Presumably, he says, they are not the, well, he talks about it, I don't think this is going to work verbally. They are not the lot of people or the some people that Trump referred to when speaking about his address to the joint session of Congress. Listen to the quote. Listen to the quote Will's talking about. This is your president. A lot of people have said that. Some people said it was the single best speech ever made in that chamber. A lot of people have said that some people said that. And first of all, are you kidding me? The single best speech ever made in the House? One chokes. And Will's, I'm going to just do 2 more sentences from Will's bit. Trump has entered his 8th decade unscathed by even elementary knowledge of the nation's history. It is up to, and here he ends it with this, it is up to the public, we the people, to quarantine this presidency by insistently communicating to our elected representatives a steady, rational fear of this man, whose combination of impulsivity and credulity render him uniquely unfit to take the nation into a military conflict. And a whole lot of other stuff, too. Chuck writes, since a previous emailer mentioned it, I'd like to express my own disappointment with Highmark's decisions to no longer cover MedExpress visits. I have to tell you, if MedExpress wasn't there, I'd be dead. You can't get in to see a doctor. You find something, you find a bump, you find something, you're sick as a dog, and they say you have to go see your doctor. Try going to see your doctor. Not with our great system. You want to get seen and seen fast? MedExpress. They have saved me. I cannot tell you. I have gone in there barely able to breathe. It sure beats the ER. Barely able to breathe. They immediately get me on a machine. They immediately get me the meds I need. They immediately look me over, do the test, blah, blah, blah. And then they tell me to follow up and see my doctor. And even if I were to have called that day to see my doctor, I probably wouldn't have seen him for another week or two. And Highmark won't cover MedExpress? Sorry, Chuck, you set me off. Back to Chuck. MedExpress has been there for us when our own doctors were not. Yeah, such as after a soccer injury on Sunday. MedExpress has saved us from many trips to the ER. Right. Trips that would have been inappropriate, right, for the ER. And they're there on Saturdays and Sundays. I think by no longer covering MedExpress visits, Highmark is forcing people back to the ER. What the hell is going on? What? Phil is just... Mika and Joe are getting married? Are you sure? Are you sure that's not, excuse me, fake news? Aren't they both already married? They're both married. They're engaged. Celine is... All right, Phil. Jeez! Washington Post is reporting. Jeez, I wonder what's been going... Jeez. She got a divorce. All right. Okay. Whatever. Wow, I'm blown away by that. I had no idea. I had no idea. I never saw that. You know how you can sometimes get sexual tension between people on air? Never. Wow. Okay. Screw them anyway. I don't like either of them. I wish them well. Okay, we're going to end with the obit of the day because I saw this in the Wall Street Journal and I had to share it with you. Bruce Hampton, ladies and gentlemen. He has been called the Frank Zappa of the South. Monday night, he was doing a concert sold out in Atlanta to celebrate his 70th birthday, and he invited a lot of his musician friends. Over 30 of them members of the Allman Brothers Band, members of Phish and REM and Blues Traveler and Widespread Panic and a bunch of other bands I never heard of. They were all there because he is considered by an awful lot of musicians as their primary musical inspiration. So among musicians, the name Bruce Hampton, even though I don't know it, is well known. And the sold-out show concluded with all the musicians on stage grinning ear to ear as Bruce Hampton led them through Turn On Your Love Light. And at one point, he pointed to the youngest guy that was on stage, who happened to be 14 years old, a guitar player, who I guess is pretty well known already, Brandon Niederauer. and he pointed to him to solo. And the kid got right into it. And as soon as he pointed to him, Bruce Hampton fell to one knee and then collapsed. And the musicians kept playing. Because, as one of them says, it wasn't the first time any of us had seen him on the floor. It took a minute. Talk about time again. He was lying there dead for about a minute as they continued to play, and for somebody to think, wait a minute, died of a massive heart attack. But what a way to go. He bang like that, surrounded by all these people who loved him, playing the music he loved. And that's what one of the musicians said. There was an incredible feeling in the building that it was a family reunion as much as a concert. Everyone rose to the occasion, including Bruce, who was playing and singing as well as I've ever heard him. He was in command until the last second. It was glorious. In case some of you are thinking you do know him, I will just say he also was an actor appearing in Sling Blade and the recent Here Comes Rusty with Fred Willard. He's also a voice in the cartoon show Space Ghost Coast to Coast. Do you like that? You like that show?
That show was so funny.
Space Ghost Coast to Coast. Is that Cartoon Network? I don't know that one. Well, one of the voices is gone. Bruce Hampton, dead at the age of 70 at his birthday party. Wow. Hey, thanks for a good show. That call from the woman who went to Moscow, best call of the year, without a doubt. Maybe the last 3 years. I really, Josie, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Toodaloo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.